women's insulated metal, blah, 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 blah. If I looked at the search term like women's pink rubber coated insulated water bottle, like that's my exact product. Now, the more specific you get to the product, the more specific the search is, the lower your search volume is going to be. So what we always look to do on product launches is like we try and find the intersection between good search volume and good to us is like maybe even a couple thousand, depending on the budget, that also have really good relevancy to the product. Because what you're trying to do is you want to get in front of your exact shoppers. So example would be insulated water bottle is going to be really expensive and not super specific to my product. Like it's kind of specific, but not really specific. I'm trying to say like, okay, where can I start getting super specific to my product, but it's going to have enough search volume that I can get the sales volume that I need. So I would focus more on that versus than I would looking at only search volume. A bit of a technical answer here is we don't quote move them, meaning we're not going to pause the existing keywords. We're simply going to launch them in another match type. Again, make sure to keep the bids lower. Amazon actually, if you read their recommendations, they recommend keeping bids lower on broad and phrase match, even lower than the exact match. When we would launch those is honestly really dependent performance of the account and availability of the budget. So if you launch a keyword in exact phrase and broad, so you have 50 keywords, right? And you launch them in exact phrase and broad, you technically have, 150 keywords that you've launched. And the potential of broad and phrase to spend could be quite high. So again, you just want to make sure it makes sense. It seems super simplistic, but if you are in a phase where you're struggling to control total ACoS and ACoS, to fix those two numbers, it really means that you have to lower down your ad spend with ideally little to no impact of the total sales or the ad sales in the case of ACoS. If you introduce a whole, again, those 50 keywords in exact phrase and broad, and those you probably need to test and optimize the bids, etc., you're introducing a lot of additional ad spend into the account. So you do want to be aware of that and be careful with that. So that's kind of a benchmark that we use. But overall, I would say, I don't know if I would have like a certain time frame or a frame which I would hold back on. It really is dependent on the performance of the account. Another good question, which best bid strategy for phrase and exacts when you move? So again, we don't really move them. We would simply launch them in addition. We like to separate them by campaign as well. Kind of gives us a little bit more control over, say, budgets for things. Now, as far as the bidding strategy, we're a super huge fan of using mainly dynamic down only. If it is a keyword that we want to ensure that we get impressions for, so for our launch keywords, for our main keywords, for anything we're trying to be aggressive with, we prefer a fixed bidding strategy. It's still going to be the same. It's still going to be pick highly relevant keywords. One other tip is pick keywords that fit within the budget of the account that you're launching. So for instance, if I have a couple $100 a day budget versus $50 a day budget, those launches are actually going to look a little bit different because I can't afford that many clicks on a $50 a day budget. Or if I had, a couple $100 or $1,000, I have a lot more room for clicks. So actually, you want budgets to play into your launch strategy. The other thing that you want to keep in mind, do not expect profitability on launch. This is a huge one. There's a lot of people that try and pull back and knee-jerk for profitability right out of the gate. That is not going to happen. The reason why it's not going to happen, and I'll tell you the numbers behind the numbers, is that ACoS is just going to be high on your product launches, and that is a function of two things. One, the aggressive cost per click you have to set to be able to get visibility in the beginning, and two, how low your product conversion rate is going to be, especially if you're launching without reviews. Those two things, once you start to be able to bring your cost per clicks down because you gain momentum or you're optimizing your bids, and then two, once your product conversion rate starts to increase because you're getting those reviews, maybe you're optimizing your listing a little bit more because you've learned more about your target market, that is going to help bring down your target ACoS. So those things, again, conversion rates are going to be low, high cost per clicks. That's actually like the nuts and bolts of why your ads are not profitable, and it's almost unreasonable to expect profitability in the beginning. And that's actually why, if you've ever had a product where you're like, no matter what I do, I cannot seem to bring the ACoS down, struggling here, it's a function of that your conversion rate is remaining low and it's not improving, and your cost per clicks are remaining high and you're not able to improve them due to the market or something else. So again, I would still say pick highly relevant keywords, Also, make sure that whatever keywords that you have fits within your budget. Launch them. Aggressive, sponsored products, exact match, potentially sponsored brand video, exact match if you have the creative. Double down on that for a couple weeks and then start expanding. Hello, and welcome back to another Ask Junglr Amazon Ads Q&A session. As you can see at the bottom, ticker tape, you have an Amazon advertising question. This is the forum to get them answered. So every single week, I go live for an hour between 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time all the way to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So Andrew, awesome. He said, let's go. I appreciate it, Andrew. Appreciate you tuning in. If you don't know, Andrew was our very first guest on the Ask Junglr podcast. We appreciate him. Highly recommend you go and check out our past recordings if you want to get some of Andrew's insight. He does some awesome full service management things. So there were some questions on like hijackers and stuff, which he was able to answer, and we appreciate having him on. So if it is your first time joining, first off, welcome. We appreciate you joining in. Again, feel free to use the chat options to type in your questions. And if you're ever wondering, you want to get updates to this, you want to get access to this, I recommend going and checking out our website. Of course, we'd be more than happy to audit your brand if you're looking for a little bit more customized help with your Amazon ads, so you can get your Amazon ad audit with us. But if you go to resources and Q&As, which is at junglr.com/live. First off, we're live streaming on the website as well, but we actually have a Google Calendar. If you want to get the links, those are updated whenever we create the live streams. We're now rolling this into a podcast. So I said, go and listen to Andrew's knowledge on Amazon advertising. So we got a podcast out for that, along with all of the past Q&As. There is a lot of them. And if you don't have time to watch all of the past Q&As, I actually have some really exciting updates coming out on that. So stay tuned. But to get access to that, you are going to have to be a part of our newsletter. We're giving out exclusive insights to our newsletter subscribers, which if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see our newsletter list here. Or if you go over to junglr.com/newsletter, you can get on our list here. A lot of good stuff coming out there. So I'm excited for this one. Some fun updates. If you were listening to that sort of intro and me teasing like, oh, the numbers behind the numbers and why you can't bring ACoS down, actually recently put out this week a YouTube video why your ACoS is so high and how to fix it. I actually have a free resource there. There is an ACoS, sort of an ACoS forecasting tool that will help you understand why your Amazon ACoS is so high, and more importantly, what do you need in terms of conversion rates and what do you need in terms of click-through rates to be able to bring that down, because it's all about data and mathematics, but sometimes it's a little bit tricky to like figure out those things. So if you've been like struggling and like, I can't seem to bring ACoS down, that video is actually going to tell you why, but more importantly, how to fix it. So highly recommend going and checking out the YouTube channel and getting some insights there. David G says, hi, love with the orange. Yeah, we've been working on thumbnails. So if anyone has any ideas on thumbnails, that's something that I need to probably get a little bit better at. But yeah, I appreciate everyone showing up. Looks like we got some really cool listeners. I'm trying to think about other interesting developments in the Amazon ad space. I know I've teased it on the last 2 lives I've been on as well. But if you weren't aware, there actually is an update instead of sponsored display ads where you can now add negative keywords to sponsored display ads. And so you will want to analyze a very specific report for that. I think we're working on getting that video edited and put out. So that one should be coming on the channel if you want to know like the exact report that you need to analyze inside of sponsored display ads. It's not called a search term report. They use a different wording for that. It is called the matched, I believe it's the match targeting report or something like that. I should go look at that up. But that is one that you'll want to, again, you go through and analyze that. It was a good analysis tool before, but you now can add negatives, which is super nice. I mean, sponsor display has been out for a while. And even if we found something that we didn't think performed really well, or if we were trying to do, say, like exclude our branded terms from sponsor display, there wasn't a really good way to do that. Now there is. So I'm making sure that everyone knows about that update because it's something, again, Amazon didn't announce it. Oftentimes with all of these updates, we just kind of find them in the account. We don't, the documentation doesn't really get pushed out to us. And so that's something else. The other thing that you might want to be aware of is that there's been some updates in terms of the keywords and how they work to sponsored brand ads. Again, I've talked about this in several other like closed groups or other stuff, but you want to be aware of this. And again, with Amazon, they don't really roll out updates. They don't really tell us. What we've noticed is there's just like a quiet update to their documentation. And so what has changed is that in every single one of the match types, this is specific to sponsored brand ads. But all of these will, the keyword itself, let me see if I can find the exact documentation, the word that they use, but it's called what is it? Contextual targeting. So there is contextual targeting now in sponsored brand ads for both exact match, phrase match, and broad match now, which it always was in broad match, and then they're rolling out to exact. So I mean, like, I think the headline I put out on LinkedIn for this was like, match types don't matter in sponsored brand ads, apparently. I mean, that's not entirely true, but that's kind of true. So what contextual targeting is that, for example, the example they give here, if the keyword is sneakers, a match may occur for canvas sneakers or basketball shoes or things like foam runners, which is like kind of like sneakers. Or it also gives the example of trainers or cleats. Now, if you know anything about sneakers, you know that cleats and sneakers are not the same thing. But if you look inside the targeting, that's what Amazon's saying. And we can potentially trigger with all of our different match types inside of, again, specific to sponsored brand ads. Do be aware of that. Keep an eye on your search term reports and add those negatives, specifically in sponsored brand ads, even in exact match. Go figure. Wild world we live in. Yeah, but David, I already see some questions rolling in. So again, this format is open Q&A, although this one has to do with buy box. So Andrew would have been much better to have on this podcast to ask about buy box, David, but I will do my best to give it a shot. So David has said, how do you win back the buy box after a price increase? Note that I'm brand registered my product and I have no other selling my exact product. I had to increase my price due to that because the gold got up dollars. Yeah, that is kind of a struggle. So what I would say is that Amazon is not just looking at Amazon. They're actually looking across all other selling platforms. And so what we kind of found is that if you are selling, now I don't know, David, if you're selling through another website or somewhere else, but if you have like a Shopify store, if you're selling some clients and some sellers that I know of have gotten screwed because they're selling on Walmart, or maybe they're even selling on like HomeDepot.com or other like external like e-com channels. And Amazon will actually scrape all of the pricing, and then if your pricing exceeds the pricing on other retailers, you can actually lose buy box on Amazon, which is like, thanks, Amazon. And so this was actually part of a discussion on side of our like our core community that we have. So this is a community that I have alongside 3 other founders. So Michael from Ad Badger, absolutely amazing software, absolutely amazing podcast. I've been on it several times. Gonza from Z Square, him and his team are doing awesome things, and Brent from AMZ Pathfinder. So that was one of the things that we actually discussed in our very last. We have a weekly, insanely high level, I'm talking high level, like forum for a lot of the sellers and stuff. But that was one thing we had talked about, was like potentially losing the buy box from like off platform. And so someone was asking like, hey, is there a tool that you can like identify where those are coming from? Because we may know that it's happening, but we're a bit unsure. And someone suggested the tool Boost My Shop. And so they said that one factors in and kind of like looks across ASINs and, can give you a report, which might be helpful. But really, as much as it sucks, like probably just lowering your pricing and then lowering your pricing. And sometimes it takes a little while to get back the buy box. So what you could do is like lower pricing and then like submit a support ticket to see if you can get Amazon to take a little bit faster moves on that, because you don't always do that, unfortunately. Another good question coming in. What do you do if even that suggested bid is not giving any impressions? That's not abnormal, unfortunately. It's not abnormal to not get impressions. And so what I would say is that raise your bids. Test raising bids. A couple of reasons why this could happen as well is you might have that particular search being triggered through another one and somewhere else in your ad structure for that product. So that could be another reason why. So if, for example, if that keyword is performing in, say, a phrase match and you go and you launch an exact match, it might take a while for that impressions to start shifting over to the exact match, which is fine and expected. Okay, so you can test that. I would honestly just test like increasing the bids here. Oftentimes, even if you're using the suggested bid, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a high enough or aggressive enough bid. The suggested bids are a good start, but you always need to optimize from there. The second reason might be that there's just not a lot of search volume for that particular keyword. And in those cases, the amount of potential impressions could be really, really low. So that could be a reason why you're not seeing impressions there. And then the other reason would be, which would be kind of like the third reason, would be that Amazon may or may not deem that your particular product is relevant to that keyword. So like, for example, if I had sneakers or shoes and I tried to advertise on the keyword socks, most likely I'm not going to get really any impressions there at all. Amazon, like that goes down the rabbit hole, or like the rabbit hole of browse tree nodes and categories and categorization, and how Amazon kind of tries to keep everyone in their relevant search box. How you can get around that, though, is just on kind of jacking up your bids. And sometimes the amount that you have to increase bids can be quite high, maybe a little bit higher than you would even think. So I would, again, test increasing bids, see if you can get movement there. Oh, cool. Got a question on bulk files. My favorite topic. Cool. Hi, Liz. Thanks for the live hints. I've heard that you've got a bulk file template can be used to create PPC campaigns faster and easier. Do you mind sharing it? Absolutely. So the best place is going to be to go to our YouTube channel. I'm going to show here. If you go here, probably the easiest way to find it is going to be to go to playlists. If you go to playlists, then you can see this Amazon PPC bulk files, specifically the 2.0. So you want to grab this 2.0, and I'm going to have to pause this before it plays. And you can see here on here, launch campaigns fast with bulk files, free template. If you click on this video underneath there in the description, there will be a link to a free bulk file tool. Sorry about that, highly recommend that you would go and check that out. Cool. Oh, good question. All right. I want to increase our organic rank for main keyword from around 40 to somewhere around 10. Is the only way to do this to go aggressive on ads and try bringing up the organic rank at the same time? Good question, Lucas. Yes. So ranking is determined by a couple things, but the main one is going to be your conversion rates and your order velocity on that specific search term. And so the way that this works is if you have a higher and like over an extended period of time, more orders through that one particular search, then you will start to move up in ranking. So ads are definitely a way to do this, right? If you can increase your visibility, the amount of clicks that you're again through that very fun and specific search, then that's how you start moving up the ranking. Our recommendations when it comes to building out ranking strategies is to do exact match sponsored product ads. I would recommend getting more aggressive with that specific ad type and match type. And I would recommend looking at at your current ad structure to determine, do I already have this exact match keyword somewhere in my ad structure where I'm seeing good conversion rates and good order rates. But there are other ways to do it, right? So anything that is going to increase your conversion rates will increase your ranking. Anything that increases the amount of orders that you're getting through that specific search will increase your ranking. That's why a lot of times sellers will do these things in tandem, like say testing coupons, potentially testing lower price point if you have the margins enough to be able to do that. If there's any sort of listing optimization that you've been putting off for a while. I also just today filmed, so expect it out within the next week or so, filmed a video on how to analyze your conversion rates versus your competition. There's some stuff going over the search query performance reports, how to use those to analyze. So if you're brand registered, I would keep a lookout on the YouTube channel. That's going to be helpful as far as like analyzing how is your conversion rate versus your competition. But that's what you're going to want to do. So again, I talk mostly about ads. So if it was left to us, the levers that we can pull is definitely, yes, get more aggressive with your advertising in terms of your keyword bids as well as your budget. Your ACoS will be higher as long as your total ACoS is tolerable, meaning you're still profitable overall on the product. It still can be a good move. So sometimes when you're looking at ranking strategies, you want to look beyond just ACoS. And says, awesome. Thank you for the playlist. Landed on the live right on time. Awesome. Yeah. So if you see anything missing from that playlist, if there is something in bulk files that you're like, gosh darn it, I know somebody told me I could do this. I want a better tutorial on this. And for bulk files, let me know. Let me know. I'm more than happy to make that video. Lucas said, super helpful. Thank you. Looking forward to the new video. Yes. Feel free to ping me if it's a couple weeks and you haven't seen it yet. Let me know. We're definitely prioritizing getting a lot more content out. So Kim, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining again. Kim was asking, which campaign types have formed more effective auto campaign versus product targeting? Expanded selecting your own product. Oh, this is a good question. So when it comes to, it sounds like you're saying showing up on product pages. All right. I would say all of the above. Honestly, if you have the budget to do it, I would run all of them. Now, if you have a limited budget, I would say maybe prioritize like a low bid auto and then also test product targeting. You can also take whatever products you've found that convert within your auto campaigns and then launch those in product targeting campaigns. That seems to be pretty helpful. Now, when it comes to like the whole exact versus expanded targeting inside of product targeting, all right, we're gonna go tactical here, okay? So the way that expanded and exact match work inside of the product targeting is that if you select exact match targeting for when you launch a sponsored product targeting campaign, you will only show up on that specific ASIN page. So how we would use that strategy is like, say, in our brand defense campaigns where we are trying to show our own products on our own listings and we want to specifically target that, then we would use an exact match targeting. Or if we have a particular competitor that we really want to go after, right? You're like, this is where exactly I want to show up. I only want to spend my ad dollars on this specific product page. Then that is a place where exact match product targeting works really, really well. You can use product targeting, expanded targeting. The way that this works is you will show up on that competitor page as well. So whoever you're targeting, be it your own products or somebody else, but Amazon's algorithm will also show you up for other products. So on other listings and Amazon deems is related or relevant to that original product that you put inside of your product targeting ad. So you can see how this could be beneficial, because if you're like, oh, I have this competitor that I absolutely crushed it on their product page. I'm dominating here, and this is working really, really, really well for me. And I would like to find other products that I can target that are very similar to this one. Then you can use the expanded targeting to see if you can find other targets. So like with an auto campaign, Amazon go out and on a bunch of product pages. So it's a way to like still sort of expand reach. It's a more like segmented and strategic way to do that. So for that reason, I'm saying kind of like all of the above. So I would think of it in kind of like what am I looking to accomplish in this specific campaign or in my strategy. So for the autos, I'm probably just looking to like, hey, who do I convert on? I'm putting out feelers. In this case, my recommendation is going to be like, keep the bids lower, run it for a little bit more profitability. I probably don't want to get aggressive with these types of campaigns because the amount of ad spend, the amount of places I can show up, my ad spend can get like really high, really, really fast, and all of a sudden get some poor performance. So I like to be a little bit more careful in these situations. If I wanted to get more aggressive and I say, I want to exactly show up on these pages, exact match product targeting all the way. And if I'm looking to sort of expand what I'm doing and I want to put out some more feelers, but I want to be more strategic with it, then I'm going to do the expanded product targeting. But again, I might try and be a little bit more conservative here because I'm not really sure if those, like how relevant or related or how well I'll convert on the other potential product pages. So hopefully that was helpful. Oh, this is a good one. What is your approach to rank a product that was out of stock for 2 to 3 weeks? Yes, this is a difficult scenario. That's why, honestly, I mean, sometimes out of stock just can't be avoided. But like first, second, and third rule of growth is like, don't run out of stock. But you're out of stock. We're here. So we got to figure out a strategy for this. So what I would do is I would go through and you're basically going to treat it like a relaunch strategy. You remember that playbook you had when you launched the product? You're like, I'm going to find keywords. I'm going to figure out where I convert. I'm going to find my main keywords. I'm going to go aggressive with these. Again, I'm probably going to use sponsored product exact match to make sure I show high up in search and my budget is directed strategically to those exact search pages. That whole sequence and playbook you ran in the beginning, run it again. We're starting from square one. The benefit of doing this in a 2 to 3 week period, like when you've already ran ads, is we're not actually like we're starting from square in terms of strategy, but we're not starting from square one in terms of data. So what I would recommend doing is instead of going through that whole like keyword research phase that you do when you originally launch the product, instead do keyword research within your own data set. So I would be going back, I would be pulling data from like my best, kind of like the previous months before I went out of stock. If I have, a couple years history on the products and I know like, okay, when I ran out of stock, I was in Q1, but like Q2 was my best performing month, I might go back and look at that data set as well. Just keep in mind, like the more recent your data, probably the more reliable it's going to be, unless you're looking at some sort of seasonality swings. But I would go back through, again, you're essentially doing keyword research, but you're doing it within your own account. You're saying, what search pages did I already rank on? Where did I get my best performance? Where did I get my best conversion rates? Where did I get my best click-through rates? And then we're running that ranking playbook on those, again, the data that we've gleaned from our account. And if you have any follow-up questions on that, Abdul has a question. I want to increase our retail price on a product. Please write an SOP for how to perform price testing and explain how you determine the best price after competition. So this is, Abdul, this is not my area of expertise. However, even though it's not my area of expertise, I have a video for you because I know a lot of people in the space who are really, really good at a lot of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to direct you to a playlist again. So we have this expert interviews playlist on our YouTube channel. If you click on this one, the video that I'm going to recommend you go to is this one that is called, it was with Jason from AZ Seller Kit. They have one of the best, if not the best, repricer tools out there. And yeah, here we go. Amazon Price Strategy Explained. From AZ Seller Kit. Go and watch this video. Jason has an insanely detailed and systematic way to test increasing your prices, because the problem with increasing prices, if you were here earlier and you heard that one of those first questions was like, hey, I raised my prices and I lost the buy box. That is a potential thing that can happen if you increase your price too quickly and too or you go too high too quick, you can end up risking losing the buy box. So Jason goes through a very strategic and systematic strategy he does to incrementally increase pricing. And then he gives some benchmarks and things that you want to look at to make sure that your increase in price is not hurting you, because sometimes if you increase price and your conversion rates go down, you end up making less sales and not more, and it's a whole thing. So you definitely, I would recommend going and checking out that video. Marcella, I think it's more of a comment, but targeting exact campaigns are one of the best ways to proceed when budget is limited. I'm going to push back on that, Marcelo, and say sometimes if you have a really unlimited budget. Now he goes back, is your goal to use the budget in terms of ranking strategy? Because I just talked about ranking strategy a lot. Best place is to do sponsor product, exact match, aggressive. But if we're just talking in general, when our budget is limited, sometimes autos and broad match are actually the best way to go, because you're going to get the farthest reach, and oftentimes you can get those at lower bits, which sometimes can help. It's really, honestly, it's about testing. I'll give you guys good information on this Q&A segment, but there's not a one-size-fits-all strategy, which is why I love these Q&As, because you guys can give context on your very specific issues, and we can game plan something on that. All right, Lucas, if I have a broad phrase and exact match campaign for a product, should all the campaigns have the C keywords in them? Or are there cases where a keyword should only be in one match type and not another? Oh, I like this question, Lucas. It is a good one. So what I would say is that we do test keywords in all match types. So if you have the budget to do it, I would recommend just running them all. And then when you said, is there a case where a keyword should only be in one match type and not in another? That more comes down to the actual performance of each match type. So what we would do is we would launch those ads. Now we keep lower bids on our broad match, a little bit lower in phrase, and our most aggressive bids on exact match. Actually, if you're reading Amazon's documentation, that actually is their recommended strategy. And so we've also seen that it works, and so we would follow that. Where you might find that, again, one match type works better than the other, it's really about optimization from there, and then just doing your bid adjustments based on the performance. And then there are some times where certain keywords and certain match types, it's just difficult to get them to perform for whatever reason. But if you have a good bid optimization sequence, then you are going to continuously optimize those keywords based on, the actual keyword performance. And then that should naturally lower bids and in some ways just effectively pause any keywords in a match type where it doesn't perform. So things end up equaling out to where they should be, is what I would say. Cool. Got a question from David. How do you track organic keywords? I know how to use Helium-10, but the crust is per listing base. How do you keep track of your organic keywords ranks over time versus your sponsored keyword ranks? Yeah, so if you have access to Helium-10, they actually have a keyword tracking tool. So it sounds like what you're talking about is reverse ASIN searching the product, which will, like you said, it will give you the rankings, but it doesn't give you the rankings over time. A good keyword tracker is, again, we use Helium-10 keyword tracker. Another one that we really like is called Datarova, and I could pull that up for you. But that keyword rank tracker, we actually like the grids on this keyword rank tracker a little bit more than Helium-10, but Helium-10 kind of has the ability to track competitors with it, although I think Datarova they said they were going to release that. But this is another good keyword tracking tool to use. Also, they'll have a really good friend, Brent from FBA Excel. He's actually releasing a really insanely awesome keyword rank tool. That's not out yet though. But do keep an eye on social channels, because when it comes out, I'll probably be making a post on that. That also would be another good option. But yeah, what you want to be looking for is something that specifically says keyword tracking. All of those should give it to you over time, versus just doing a reverse ASIN search and it's just saying like, hey, where are you ranking right now? What is your favorite place to check conversion rates? If you are going to check your own conversion rates, you want to check it in two spots. We look at your organic conversion rate, which is going to include organic as well as your advertising, which is your unit session percentage. That can be found in your business reports. Now, you can look at conversion rates on several different levels. You can look at conversion rates on your overall account level. You can look at conversion rates on a parent ASIN level, or you can look at conversion rates on a child ASIN or SKU level. So it depends on like how you want to analyze this and how, like if I'm troubleshooting a particular product, I'm obviously going to be looking at the product level. If I want to look at the overall account level, I might just be looking at account level. And so that's how I would do it. Now, if you're talking about analyzing the conversion rates of your competitors, I know I teased that video coming out, but the two places that you can check how your conversion rate is doing against your competition is brand metrics, which is located inside of the ad console, and search query report, which is located inside of brand analytics. Both of those tools are free from Amazon, so you can use them. However, you do have to be brand registered to use those tools. So there is that. Lucas says, thanks. Of course, Lucas. Appreciate the question. Awesome. So it looks like we're rickrolling through here. We have about 30 minutes left. So providing we have enough questions to fill up those 30 minutes, I'm going, it looks like 25 minutes left. Yeah, the one other interesting question I got today, which is not related to this, but someone had asked a question in a private group that I'm in. And I apparently not many people know this. There's so many little nuances to Amazon ads, but one of the things that they were saying was they were noting that one of their competitors was showing up underneath their buy box with a sponsored display ad, and they were had launched a sponsored display ad to kind of counteract that. So they took in one of their products and then ran a sponsored display ad against their own ASIN. That's called like a brand defense campaign. But they were still struggling to gain impressions, and they said there had actually been 0 impressions in the last couple of weeks despite having a high bid. One thing that you might not know about brand defense campaigns is if you are trying to advertise your own products on one of your other product listings, if those two products are in the same listing, oftentimes you won't get any impressions for these ads. So if you are running brand defensive campaigns, you do want to make sure that you're advertising products that are on a different listing, and then targeting those against the product where you're trying to push out your competitors on, which is kind of interesting. That's something we see. And sometimes you can get around that with a really high bid, but oftentimes it's the same thing. Little to no impressions there. Awesome. Lucas says, when is it a good idea to have products as part of a variation listing? Is there any disadvantages to it? Yes, there is, but there's also some pros. So I'll give you the pros and cons. And I actually, when I was plugging that playlist, I interviewed, he is a seller, but he did some really amazing things with variations. So increased sales over 2x with variation with Ryan Hoffaker. I would recommend that is our expert interviews playlist, which I've kind of slowed down on the expert interviews, although if people are interested, I'm happy to bring on other experts and, kind of, there's some really interesting tidbits in there, but that actually has a really good sort of like pros and cons, Lucas, and like how he did it and how he went through his search term reports and was very strategic with how he chose the variations, which then led to his success. Okay. That's where to get more deep information. Now let's go over pros and cons. So when it comes to variation listings, the pros here are you can showcase another offer. So it's very easy for a customer to sort of like choose the item that they want. So a classic example would be clothing, right? Technically speaking, you could have a separate listing for your medium, your small, and your large. But what happens there? Maybe someone searches, black t-shirt, right? And so they click on your listing because they like the shape or the style or whatever. And then they are a medium and all they're confronted with is the largest. And I'm like, oh, obviously they don't have an option for me. And so they're going to end up clicking off that listing and purchasing somewhere elsewhere because you don't have the offer that shopper is particularly looking for. So if you think that there's going to be an issue with people not converting on your product because it's difficult for them to find the option that they would want, then in those cases, like it makes sense to have like your small, medium, large, extra large, all of the same sizes for that particular product on that listing so the shopper can choose whichever one that they want. The other benefits of that can be in terms of ranking strategies. So the way that this works would be all of that traffic from those, each of those variations is being funneled into a listing. And oftentimes rankings are kind of determined on a listing level. So an example would be if I always use metal cup, but so what if I had like a metal water bottle? Okay. If I have a blue and a pink version, and I noticed that there's a lot of searches for women's metal water bottle, which obviously my pink variation appeals to that market a little bit more. If I advertise all of those, that particular variation I advertise that variation, then all of that traffic is then funneled into that listing, which then can bolster the rank of that listing. And that would help, say, like the overall sales velocity there. It also helps with things like BSR. So you can kind of have like multiple streams of like different customer segments being funneled into the same listing, which then of course boosts everything. And you end up with, really good sales growth there. That's the method that basically Ryan was talking about. So there's that distinct advantage. The other advantage is that in terms of your ad spend, you can only gain one ad spot per listing. So even if you had, say, like all 4 of your variations that were targeting the same keyword, you're only going to be paying once for every single shopper search because only one of your products is going to be eligible to show there. That can be both an advantage and a disadvantage. I'm going to get into the cons next. So there's all the pros to it, right? Maybe typically you're not going to spend exponentially in ad spend. You can offer into more variety to shoppers. It's easier for them to find it, etc. Now, Cons here is, of course, I just kind of teased it before, you only get one organic spot and one ad spot per search page. So that means you're only going to get one placement. So if you have like a huge listing with a ton of different variations, you're only really showing up once on the search page. And then of course they click into it and they can purchase the other varieties. Well, if you split out those listings, then you have the ability to sort of like dominate a search page. Now, actually, if you listen to the guys, on Simple Modern, they have a really good brand. They actually sell water bottles, and they have some really interesting insights they put out on LinkedIn, which I find fascinating. And so Amazon will only let you dominate so much of a search page. Like, they're not going to let you take up all of the organic spots on a search page, but you can take up quite a bit, providing each individual product has a strong enough conversion rate and order velocity to be able to dominate and rank on that particular search page. So benefit is you can dominate more of the search page. You can also run advertising on all of those. So you can show up in more than one ad spot, more than one organic spot. Obvious cons here is there's a lot more moving parts, and, you know, potential the ad spend needed for that kind of strategy is going to be a lot higher because you're paying for all those ad spots. So pros and cons, it's really determining what you think is going to make sense for you and your business. Hard and a tough one. Can you provide insights on reducing ad spend while maintaining or increasing sales and visibility? Okay. Here's what I will say. This is impossible if you're talking about a specific keyword, right? So if I have a specific target in my ad structure and I said I want to reduce the ad spend and I want to increase the visibility, those two are like complete opposition to each other, because the things that you're doing when you're reducing ad spend, you're lowering bids, you're lowering your ad budgets, your campaign budgets. The things that you need to do to increase your sales and visibility is you need to increase your ad budgets and you need to increase your bids. Those, like, how do you do both at the same time? This is possible, but it's hard. The one determinant that will mean if it's really, really easy or really, really hard is going to be how much ad waste is in your account. For an example, we took on a brand, talk about ad waste. It was a lot. Now, their budget was really big, and they are a clothing brand. There's a ton of different products, lots of products. There was so much ad waste in the account that we got them down from a 36 or a 37% total ACoS to a 15% total ACoS in half a week, right? And we increased sales. Would you be like, how the heck did you do it? Because it was so bad. It was so bad. If you're running it really, really good, actually, your job is going to be harder. The ones where there is not as much ad waste in there, it's going to be more difficult. So your job is to figure out what things should I increase where I already have good performance, and maybe increasing the bids a little bit. For example, like maybe you have a campaign that's running at an ACoS. Maybe your target is 25%, but this particular campaign is running at like a 15% ACoS, right? That's really efficient. So if I increase the efficiency here, or I increase the budgets here, the goal would be that, you know, this would still run really efficiently. And then I can like push up and grow sales through this thing, you know, that doesn't require as much ad spend. I'm not paying as high cost per click. And then you're going in and saying, where is my inefficiencies? Now, inefficiencies are like, where is my waste? So you want to look for things with clicks with no sales. You want to look for, this is on a keyword level as well as a search term level. You can also look at things like campaign budgets as well. And so, I mean, that's how you do it. The task you're asking is it's difficult. So it's like it's more of a where question than a how, because the how is like decrease bids, decrease budgets, increase bids, increase budgets. It's being strategic with where exactly that you're doing that. And I'll actually give you a pro tip here. The more products you have in a campaign or in an account, the more options you have to say grow or shrink back. If you only have one product and a very limited ad structure, the task is actually a lot harder, believe it or not. Even though you think it's more difficult in a larger account because there's lots of moving pieces. Lots of moving pieces means more places you can make impact if you know what you're doing. David had the question. I have 3 products that are in their phrase match campaigns, and I've segmented them by keyword by creating different campaigns by keyword. At which point should I be concerned about cannibalization? Any examples? I wouldn't worry about it, David. I wouldn't worry about it. If they're separate products, I would ask myself, am I happy with the total A costs? Am I happy with my A costs? If you're happy with your total A costs, you're happy with your A costs, you're happy with your sales, I wouldn't overthink it. I would say my numbers are good, I'm profitable, we're good to go. Now, if you have high A costs and have high total A costs, and you're not really happy with your ad sales, then that's a different question that you need to look into some optimizations. But otherwise, I honestly, I wouldn't overthink it. I'm trying to think if there's any other tips here. I don't know if that helped at all, David. Feel free to ask a follow-up question, because I feel like that was kind of like a broad answer. Like, don't worry about it. But honestly, a lot of the time, these cases, that's kind of the answer. I would just say, like, if you're optimizing each keyword for each product based on that individual product and keyword performance, then you're naturally going to be, optimizing toward the things that have the best performance, meaning like you're increasing those bids, you're increasing those budgets. This is where the performance is good. I'm going to push this up. And then if you have ones with poorer performance, higher A costs, then you're bringing down bids, you're probably adjusting your budgets. And so naturally, each product is going to be optimized based on its individual performance. And it's really just about having a good optimization system. So I wouldn't worry about it. Abdul looks like keep asking the same question. Yeah, Abdul, I would just look at that video that I told you about from Jason. I can actually drop it in the chat. I would go watch this video, Abdul, because that's where you're gonna get the best insights on product pricing. And that, again, you could probably throw that transcript into ChatGPT and get a good SOP out of it, honestly, because Jason was very, very thorough in his explanation on pricing. That's going to give you the best information there. Cool. Looks like sometimes these roll through and I'm like scrambling to answer everything, and other days I'm not too swamped, which is great. So if we have another couple questions, I will make sure to get those out to you guys and prioritize them. Like I said, if anyone's really interested in getting a complete breakdown of these Q&As, I highly recommend you guys join our newsletter list. I actually put out, I think it's about every Wednesday, a complete breakdown of every single answer with time stamps to the actual places where I answered the questions. So you guys, again, can kind of get in, get out, get your questions answered. Cool. We got a good one, though. Can you explain your approach to A/B testing different ad copy variations to improve click-through rates? Yeah. So this would be specifically in sponsored brand ads and sponsored display ads where we have creatives attached to them. How Amazon recommends you test this. So I will be clear here. There really isn't any good, true A/B testing inside of Amazon ads. Maybe eventually they will give it to us, but as of right now, we don't have it. Amazon's recommendation on A/B testing is to create different ad groups within the same campaign. So create different ad groups using the same targets, ideally the same bids, and then what you want to do is just change the creatives within those ad groups. And then what you can do is you can click into that campaign and you would view everything on an ad group level and then just say, where am I getting better impressions? Where am I getting better click-through rates? All of that good information. And then you can analyze it that way. Do I have a video on YouTube? I think it's pretty much just the, I think it's just the answer I just gave you, like how to, just really how you A/B test it. Oh, David asked to have any. No, we don't have an affiliate with Datarova. I probably should ask them for that. But I mean, you can tell them I sent you and see if they'll do anything. I've talked to them a couple of times, but the team really likes their tool. So yeah, I'm happy to give anyone business who I think is good. Prioritizing the good. There's been a couple of people I refer to, and then I get back and they're like, yeah, they didn't do a very good job. I'm like, well, strike that name from the list, unfortunately. So yeah, whoever I refer is typically people I know personally or ones that I've heard of from people I trust. Lucas Girl says, how important do you think having a brand store is? I've had it as something I do on the back burner for a while, but wondering if it makes a big difference. Good question. I know if you talk to any Amazon reps, they will say that there's a really big lift in terms of brand store. What I would say is that if you're heavily invested in sponsored brand ads, and even sponsored brands video ads now allow you to direct to a store page. Store pages, and more particularly sub pages on Amazon, will allow you to probably have the best cross promotion ability. So the thing that is an advantage, a distinct advantage in the brand store, is that you don't have a lot of your competition showing up. Where if you're directing them to say your listing, you have the sponsored display ads, and they can scroll down to see your A+ content and run across all of the other potential brands. I'm trying to see if I can find a good store page here. So I just went to Amazon and I typed in baby blanket, and I found this brand and put it here. See how you can see there's a drop down for pregnancy pillows and pregnancy pillow covers. Well, if they have different offers for say pregnancy pillows here, which this is actually pretty good. See how they have all of their different options for their pregnancy pillows? Well, in this case, if I was running, say, a sponsored brand ad and I wanted to showcase my pregnancy pillows, instead of directing them to say my landing pages or my listing, you can direct them to this very curated sub page where they could go and sort of shop your specific brand. And here, this is a more premium brand. You honestly don't have to be as premium as this. Another good one would be, let me see if they did it for all of their pages. Looks like they're doing pretty good for every single one of their pages. But even just having sort of a grouped product set like this, that again gets them into your ecosystem, showcases your entire offering. This works really well in, say, maybe you have the bedding category, right? Where you have your queen size sheets, but you have a ton of different styles, right? And maybe you've chosen your listings where you have, maybe this is my flower set, and then you could have you have your king size, queen size, twin, etc. Well, if you had a group where you said, hey, here's all the patterns that I have that are from my brand, then they can sort of shop within your ecosystem. So that's where there is a very distinct advantage to running or having a really good store page here, would be that, again, you can showcase a very select curated group of your products and treat that sort of as a landing page, which can do really, really well. So then how do you do different broad modifier and exact? Oh, how do you differentiate broad modifier and exact match? Yeah. So a modified broad match works exactly like the traditional old school broad match used to work inside of sponsored product ads. So the way that a broad match modifier works is that any individual word, so what you do is there's a little plus symbol, you put a plus symbol in front of the individual words within a keyword that you want to show up inside of whatever searches trigger. So for example, would be let's do women's sneakers, okay? So women's sneakers, if I put it in a traditional broad match, I can show up for women's sneakers. I could show up for sneakers women, so I can swap the order of the words. I can show up sneakers, pink sneakers for women, women's sneakers for running, like all the different variations. So it could swap one of the words, but it can also trigger those, what are they called? Contextual searches, like women's trainers or women's cleats. And you're like, those aren't exactly relevant. So if I put that little plus symbol in front of women's and sneakers, any search term that triggers through that keyword has to have both the individual word women and it has to have sneakers in it. So it's different from an exact match type. In that exact match, it can't switch up the order of words. It can't add anything in the middle or in the back or the front of it. But it can also, yeah, so that would be, hopefully that makes sense. So move on. But yeah, that's how the modified works, is like you just make sure, it's a way to make sure that those individual words are inside of your triggered search terms, basically. What are the different core differences between Amazon DSP and Amazon Display? Core differences would be Amazon DSP is like sponsored display times a million on steroids, meaning the customization available inside of a sponsored display ads, customization of individual targeting, customization of your creatives, customization of audiences. Like you can segment audiences. You can like say, I want this audience without, you know, that's never seen my product before and all kinds of stuff. So it's really, really powerful. That comes with a much higher learning curve and a much higher ad budget for running that. And it's not currently available for self-serve unless you have like really, really high ad spend on it. And so in those cases, an Amazon display would be like DSP Lite, is what I would say. Although Amazon display ads are much more user-friendly, they're much easier to get into, and your ad budget you need to run those is going to be much lower. How can sponsored display campaigns be integrated with a broader programmatic strategy to reach target audiences across the web? Yeah, so sponsored display ads will show up off platform, which is great. I mean, as far as being integrated, match targeting, I'm trying to remember if there's a really good way to see where that web traffic is coming from. That one is not really as much integrated, although I would say there is an advantage to being able to show up off platform. It also will give you visibility on other pages within site or in other like search options inside of Amazon where you wouldn't be able to show up before. So for example, a sponsored display ad may show on, it can actually show up here on the homepage and other places as well. So for those cases, like it is useful and worth it to run a sponsored display campaign. And actually, if you look at Amazon's documentation and recommendation, they don't actually recommend running either sponsored display or DSP. There is advantages to running both. Lucas says, Amazon DSP only available to PPC agencies? No. The way that it works is Amazon only allows specific seats for DSP. So you can pay to get your own sort of like seat at the table or your own instance. That comes, and it's been a hot minute since I went down the rabbit hole of research as to like what the actual ad spend. There's a certain required, I believe, annual ad spend to be able to get your own seat, which is like probably much, much higher than you would ever want to spend on your own individual brand, unless you're like, say, like a big enterprise brand. So that's probably not going to make sense. Now there are, I believe there's certain software that allow you to sort of use them as a way to get access to DSP. Most of those agencies come with like a minimum ad spend per month. I believe last I checked, it was somewhere around 10 grand a month. Although sometimes you can get away with 5 grand a month to start. It really just depends. I would look at just kind of the labeling and the options. How do you stay updated on the latest Amazon PPC features and algorithms, and how do you adapt your strategies accordingly? accordingly. Good question. Show up to places like this every week. I'll let you know if there's something coming down the pike. Like I said, with the sponsored display ads, that was a huge one with the negatives and other things. Now, how am I finding this? One, I'm finding this because our team, we're just in a lot of accounts and we got a lot of people touching base on accounts daily. And so for that reason, my team will alert me to updates, or I sometimes find updates in the ad console myself when I'm in there doing work. Another great place is I have a lot of contacts in the community. And so I know I talked about it again, but Core. So if you go to corecommunity.io, I'm going to drop that in the chat as well. That is a specific community that we put together. The reason why is because, like you said, it's really hard to keep up with these updates. And not only these updates, but like, all right, we have this cool thing. What do I do about it? So a lot of people I know, like you could follow me on YouTube. I'll be putting out YouTube videos on new updates, or I put a lot of content out on LinkedIn or other places, or a newsletter. So I try and keep the community as informed as I possibly can. But that is another place to tap in terms of resources and look for information on that, because right now we're doing closed enrollment. Lucas asked if there's a cost for Core. Yes, it is a paid community, which allows us to keep it like really high level. So I recommend, but I do recommend checking it out. It's not too crazy. And at the very least, you can get on the launch list, and you can get an idea of, kind of cost structure for that. But we'll be opening enrollment very shortly. We should have dates very shortly. So look out for information on that. And with that, we are at time. We're actually a couple minutes over. So as always, I really, really appreciate everybody joining. Another fabulous group of questions. Hopefully I was able to get you guys answers. And as always, I will see you guys next week. Thanks so much.